We do have the love doctor in the studio with us. Dr. Obi Esiobo is here with us. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice finally meet you in person.
Same here. Thank you very much.
Okay, so just the last segment that we had with you, we were talking about dealing with a cheating partner in marriage.
Yes.
And we're going to be looking at the second part of that conversation. So please, feel free.
Okay. So I don't know if our viewers can remember some of the things we touched on the last time, but we'll just run very quickly. One of the things that we said the last time was this is so broad, we can't exhaust it because there are many sides to it. So I'll just try to touch on two key aspects. So the first thing I recommend that people should do is, because whenever anyone is faced with this situation, there is that temptation to just react and scatter everything, because nobody wants to be cheated on. Even people that are serial cheats, they don't handle it so well when they find out that the partner is cheating. So what I want to deal with today is, for everyone watching us, is to understand the emotions that are going on your inside whenever you've faced that situation. There are a couple of emotions that go on. I'll just mention a few. You need to understand the confusion you are facing at that time. It's a lot of confusion, a lot of questions. Okay, how did I contribute to this? So you need to deal with that. From confusion, there's the feeling of shock, and then from shock, you can move to what we call rage or anger. But the reason we're treating this is, I said earlier, it's not the time your first reaction shouldn't be to scatter everything, because there are many reasons why people cheat. And I think this is a very interesting conversation, because one of the reasons people cheat, for example, is when their spouse or significant other is not, of course, nothing can ever justify cheating. But sometimes as you begin to look deep into it, you will discover that the reason why some people cheat is because their emotional needs were not met, so to speak, by the person they're supposed to be in a relationship with. And if that's the case, technically you have contributed to that situation that we have on our hands. So that's why we said the first reaction, and I know it's not very easy, but we'll need to practice this, because if you are looking, because we're talking marriage, so it's not just boyfriend, girlfriend. So leaving the marriage is not always the first solution, because how many people will you get married to? If you leave and go to the next person, you might find out that the person you left is even better than the person. So leaving is not always the first option. So you need to calm down, understand what is going on. Did I contribute to this? So go through those emotions, and that's never the best time to address the issue, because most likely, and we all can relate to this, anything you do or say in anger, most times you end up complicating that situation. So that's the first thing that we want to tell anybody that finds themselves in that situation, how to handle it. The second thing that I would like to recommend to us, and then we'll see if we have questions, so that will just help drive this conversation, is to, if this is the first time it's happening, I would like to encourage those listening to us to find a way to forgive. It's not easy, but it's if the person is really sorry, I'm sure would at some point we'll get to how do we handle serial cheats, because there's cheating and there's serial cheating. Some people, you catch them today, by the next week you catch them again. So at some point, if that's what you are dealing with, you might need to reevaluate the whole thing again for a couple of reasons. Because some people are so irresponsible, they go and cheat. We've all heard those stories. They go and cheat, come back, give their partner an STI, just mess up the whole thing. Some people, some men, for example, we all know that in Nigeria today and in many places around the world, women are the breadwinners of the family. Some men are so irresponsible. The time they are meant to use to work, the woman is working. That's as if that's not bad enough. They are cheating on the woman with her own money. So when you are dealing with those kind of situations, you might need to consider if you still want to stay or if you want to leave. But generally speaking, the recommendation will be understand the emotions going on inside you. That's not the best time to react. Assess the situation. What am I dealing with? Did I contribute to this? If the answer is yes, automatically you will be more lenient, because chances are that if you did not contribute to that situation by neglecting the emotional needs of your partner, they won't find themselves in. We've already said that that doesn't justify cheating, but in the real world, when you neglect the emotional needs of your partner, sometimes we can find ourselves in those situations. And these things are so practical. So a man, for example, who never notices the hair that his wife has done, never gives her compliments. And there's this guy in the office, or you know how women are, always giving the woman compliments. Before you know it, she's emotionally vested in that guy. And if care is not taken, things might just spiral out of control. And then the second thing I said was we have to consider forgiveness. So even for a situation where one party has to leave the marriage, unfortunately, we normally encourage that you would have exhausted the options of forgiveness. So leaving is not the first thing, because we're living in a generation now where the moment anybody finds themselves in that situation, the automated response is, I'm not doing again. But that's not always the best. So I'll just stop here. I don't know if this has been a bit helpful. I don't know if you have questions.
Of course it has, because as you were talking, I'm so glad that you mentioned how that eventually we're going to be looking at serial cheats. And that brings me to the point where we have a generation of men who would say that it is impossible to say that a man will or cannot cheat, because that is how men are wired. How do you react to that?
I think that's a very irresponsible statement, and we would have to circle back to the dating phase. And that's why it's important that everybody goes into a relationship with their head on their shoulder, with a thorough appraisal of their value system. I believe that someone that is a serial cheat and I know people are experts at masking their behavior, but if you are observant, there are one or two things, because these things start with flirting. The way some guys flirt, for example, you already know that this is a problem. It's going to be a problem. So you begin to pick those signs. So I won't even want to dwell much on the man that is making that irresponsible comment. My issue is, what are you doing with that kind of man in the first place? That's where I want to begin from, because sometimes you hear women say maybe there are no men to marry. But I think that when it comes to marriage, it is better to remain single and happy than to get married and you are crying every day. Some women will even tell you, oh, I would rather cry with a Gucci bag or cry in a Ferrari, all of that. They already know that you already know from the point you are entering, but maybe because of money or because of poor values, people get into it. Out of 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times, there are very few issues in marriage that only come up, that you can say you didn't see it before entering the marriage. So I think that's where we need to begin from.
All right.
Man that will cheat, you will see the signs and you run for your life.
All right, we're pressed for time, but let me just throw in this question before perhaps we will wrap up.
Okay.
I was somewhere last weekend and someone was listening to a space, perhaps maybe one of the social media platforms, and the conversation came up, and the conversation was wrapped around the issue of, if someone is dating, not married, perhaps you are in that stage where you can call it a courtship.
Yeah.
And one of the partners decides to cheat. Is it something that is permissible because you're not married? Is it allowed?
It's not permissible.
Why is it not permissible?
Because we have to circle back again to the issue of values.
Okay.
And it can happen. If you're careless, it can happen. But
no, in a case where it happens, the other party is saying, the other party who cheats is saying, as long as we're not yet married, that's excuse is given to the other party who is at the receiving end. Now the question is it permissible? Is it something okay?
It's not, because that guy, because even though it must be said that women, most times, I think men are the ones that get caught
in the act
faster. But these days, a lot of women are cheating.
Okay,
so the ratio is even.
So because they're not married now, does it make it permissible?
It doesn't. It doesn't, and it boils down to the issue of values.
Okay.
If you feel it's something you can cope with, good luck to you. But most times, that kind of person that will tell you we're not yet married will end up cheating in the marriage, because marriage doesn't stop
change
you.
anything.
It doesn't stop you. If somebody has a problem with womanizing, marriage doesn't. In fact, sometimes marriage is the trigger, because there are women that find you attractive when you are married. So if you don't have self-control when you are dating, chances are that you won't have self-control when you are getting married. So it's not permissible. So I encourage everyone, look at your value system. That person doesn't cut the figure of somebody that is remorseful. So he's going to do it again and again and again. And before we go, let me just add that This topic is a very important topic. If you go to the psychiatric ward, a couple of them across the country. In Lagos here, we have the major one at Yaba, the one that people casually say Yaba left. But if you go to the neuropsychiatric hospital, a good number of the cases there are around relationship issues. It's not, there are many people in the psychiatric ward today because of the man they got involved with, because of the woman they got involved with. So if you keep putting up with this kind of abuse, emotionally, physically, mentally, and nothing is done, the chances that you would end up in the psychiatric ward is very high. So it's something that everyone should take seriously and guard their hearts so that they don't fall prey. I'll repeat what I said earlier. It's better to be single than get married to a very irresponsible person. You won't enjoy the marriage, and ultimately you won't enjoy your life.
Wow.
All right, I'm going to leave you with a question. If we can answer it in 2 minutes, because that's what we have, then fine. If not, we can leave it for the next segment. When you were talking earlier, you mentioned how that the first reaction to a cheating partner shouldn't be crushing the entire relationship or the marriage, because you just go through the whole process of getting angry and then acceptance and forgiveness and all that. And then you said that comes by as a result of people neglecting the emotional needs of their partners. When people get, how do you even get to the point where you're now analyzing, okay, how should I react? Should I get angry first? Say I'm not doing because you're already feeling a lot of, there is so much going on inside you at the time. The emotions are very tumultuous, and you'll be asking a lot of questions to yourself. And then, of course, from what you said, neglect. So if I am neglecting your emotional needs, why didn't you just tell me instead of going ahead to cheat? Do you understand what I'm trying to ask here?
Yes. So maybe I didn't explain that very well. So eventually, because we're two mature people, hopefully, we're still going to have a conversation, and there you can express. But I brought up the issue of emotions first, so that you know the kind of conversation to have, because we all know that if you go into a conversation angry, you are not going to get the best out of that conversation, and you might even give the guilty party a lot of opportunity to deflect, because the facts are not clear, your head is not clear, you are just angry. And if that person is a master manipulator, he would end up what we call gaslighting. He will end up gaslighting you, and it's just a mess, and you won't even get to the root of the solution. So the emotions bit I mentioned is to be able to get yourself to a point where you can have a mature, clear conversation, and hopefully lessons will be learned and they won't repeat themselves. But maybe in the next segment, since we're out of time, we could elaborate more on this. So we're not saying sweep the issue under the carpet. No, that will never. That is even another potential problem that can also land you in the psychiatric hospital. God forbid.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Obi, for coming by the studio today. It's really nice. It is still iBrand Daybreak. More and more conversations will be coming your way when we come back from this quick timeout. Stay with us.